What is going on, everybody? In today's video, we're going to grade every first round pick from the 2022 Major League Baseball draft. Yeah, we're going to be grading every pick. You guys loved this video last year. It was one of my most popular videos ever. So make sure you drop a like on this one, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. And by the way, I'm not going to be stopping the videos after just like the first two rounds. I'm just kind of getting day one done today, and then tomorrow we're gonna dive into day two and what happened on day two, because there's already been a big pick. The Rangers have selected Brock Porter. But let's go ahead and grade every first round pick. Let's start off with the first overall pick, which was Jackson Holliday, shortstop out of Stillwater High School in Oklahoma. This is the best pick in the draft, and he's the best player in this draft. This is an A+. It's a smart move for the Orioles. They don't go under slot here. Holliday has the potential to hit 30 or more home runs, be a Corey Seager, Xander Bogaerts maybe, I don't know, type player. It looks like Corey Seager is going to be my comp, though, with him. I really think that he's going to be a great player in the major leagues, and another one of those high school shortstops that are really, really good. I think that he's going to be really, really good for the Baltimore Orioles. I love this pick. Next up at number 2, the Arizona Diamondbacks selected Drew Jones, son of Andrew Jones, of course. And Drew Jones has 5-tool potential, as I've told you 20 times by now. And he has a great bat, potential to hit 30 home runs in the major leagues, along with being probably one of the best defenders in the major leagues. He has the potential to be the best center fielder one day. Next up at number 3, Kumar Rocker, selected by the Texas Rangers, 3rd overall. I'm going to give this a B-. People probably are going to give this like an F, but I really don't think it's an F pick, because this dude literally could have went number 3 overall last year, and nobody would have thought it was that big of a deal. And he's throwing way harder, and he's probably a better pitcher than he was last year now. I think that this is not that bad of a pick. I'm going to give it a B-. Next up, Tamara Johnson, with the 4th pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates out of Mays High School in Georgia. I really like Tamara Johnson. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's going to be a second baseman definitely in the future in the major leagues, but Tamar Johnson's really good. He has the potential to hit 30 to 40 home runs a year. And, yeah. Next up's Elijah Green. I'm going to give this pick an A-. I think that this is probably the right spot that he should have went. Of course, there's a lot of boom or bust potential. Hopefully, he's not going to strike out as much as he does, but we still have seen some great players in the major league strike out a lot. Stanton strikes out a lot. Judge is not striking out as much this year, but he has struck out a lot in the past. I think that Elijah Green has a lot of potential, and the potential to possibly be the best guy in this draft when we look at it a couple of years later. Next up's Jacob Berry. I'm going to give this a B+. Jacob Berry is a guy that's going to have a quick route to the major leagues, and he kind of fits in well with these Marlins prospects of guys that are kind of closer to the major leagues, and I like the pick of Jacob Berry. Next up's Cade Horton. I'm just going to give this an F. This is probably one of the worst picks for me of the draft. You've already saw that video, or should have. If you haven't, go watch it. But Cade Horton's just not a good pick. Inexperienced, just doesn't have a lot of control either. I'm just not a big fan of Cade Horton. I feel like there's a lot of guys, if you're reaching here, that you could have reached on, and I would have probably been a bigger fan of. Just obviously my decision doesn't matter, but I think that would have been better than Cade Horton. Brooks Lee is an A for the Minnesota Twins, even though they have a lot of shortstop and third base talent. Brooks Lee is the best player available here. And simply when you're drafting with such a high spot, you want to go with the best player available, and Brooks Lee was that guy. With the Kansas City Royals at number 9, Gavin Cross gets a B- for me. I'm just glad that the Royals didn't do something crazy like they did last year with Frank Mazzocata or an AC Lacy type deal. They went with a hitter, which I think is where they should have gone here. I think they should have leaned towards the hitter for sure. There was just no reason in such they should have selected another like prep pitcher, which they've just not done well with developing pitching. Maybe they can develop Gavin Cross a little bit. He doesn't have to be developed a lot either. Next up's Gabriel Hughes. I'm giving this a D. Anybody playing in Coors Field is just not really a good match made in heaven anyways. And Gabriel Hughes, I don't think it's going to be any kind of difference. Even though Herman Marquez and John Gray have had a little bit of success there. and have got big money in free agency. Gabriel Hughes, I mean, it's an okay pick. With the players still available, though, at this spot where they were selecting with Kevin Parada, Jace Young, Zach Neto, Cam Collier still was available. I think there was better guys on the board. Kevin Parada to the Mets at number 11 was an A. I really like this pick. I really like what they did in the first round of this draft. I thought it was a really, really good draft here, and a very smart one. You know, they didn't really seem to overthink this pick. They just knew that, like, you know, Parada's our guy if he's falling here, and that's what I like, selecting the best player available. I think the Tigers did at number 12 with Jace Young as well, who gets a B+. I think that Jace Young, his swing's definitely weird, but it works. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a weird swing if it works. And I think that he's going to be a really good hitter in the Tigers lineup, even though Comerica Park is hard to hit in. And still think that Young's going to be a fine pick. Next up, Zach Neto. I'm going to give this a B+. I like what the Angels are doing in this draft. You know, I like that they didn't go with another pitcher here. I think that they could have went with Lesko, could have went with a Jerpy. I wouldn't have been too mad either way. But Neto, I felt like was kind of their guy if they got at number 13. I predicted this right, and I think that Neto was their guy, and I think that it's a good pick, B+. Next up, Jet Williams at number 14 is a B- for me. He's coming out of Rockwell Heath High School, Texas. I think that Jet Williams is a pretty decent pick. I'll say that. I mean, it's not great, but it's a guy that you're drafting for his upside, and he does have a lot of upside. Next up at number 15, Dylan Lesko. I'm going to give this an A. Lesko was a guy that could have went number 1 overall if he didn't end up having Tommy John surgery. And Lesko, I think, is a really good player, and it's going to be a future ace for the San Diego Padres. And the Padres love these prep players, and they've done pretty good with them the last couple of years. They drafted Hassel in 2020, which has been a really, really good pick, and Morel showed some signs of being pretty good, even though they kind of reached on him. They have a history of prep players, but they develop them well. Next up, Chase DeLauter of the Cleveland Guardians at number 16. I think this is an A. DeLauter's one of the best guys in this draft, in my opinion. I wouldn't have been surprised to see a team reaching for him in the top 10 in this draft. I really think that DeLauter is one of the best hitters in this draft, and I've kept with that even through his injury at James Madison, and even with him being at a smaller school. I think that DeLauter is one of the better hitters in this draft. Next up at number 17, the Phillies went with Justin Crawford. You know, Justin Crawford, I don't think it's a great pick at all. You know, I think it's a C+. It's kind of just one of those guys that I don't see the Phillies developing him much into. Of course, he does have the bloodlines, I guess you'll say, with Carl Crawford being a great player in the major leagues, but still, C+ for me. Next up at number 18 was one of the biggest steals of the draft so far, being Cam Collier, third baseman out of Chipotle Junior College. He played at one of the premier junior college schools, and he's probably played in a better level than some of these guys like Drew Jones, Jackson Holiday, maybe even Kumar and Tamar. You know, I really think that Cam Collier is going to be great in the major leagues. And he's the guy that's going to be similar to Juan Soto, I think. Just not the same position. My player comp for him, Rafael Devers. Next up, Daniel Suzak. I'm going to give this a D-. I just did not like this pick. I didn't think it was smart for where their team's going. Their team's in a full rebuild right now. There's no need to draft a guy like this that's going to be up pretty quickly. I didn't think that Daniel Suzak was very smart here at all. I think that this was a really dumb pick. Next up at number 20 was Owen Murphy for the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to give this a C. The potential of him's like definitely an A. It's a really good potential guy that is a two-way player as well. I really like the pick, but I'm just wondering if he's going to live up to the potential. Cole Young also gets a C. I'm not a big fan of Cole Young. I've said this. He's coming out of North Allegheny High School in Pennsylvania. Really doesn't have a lot of power. If he doesn't hit for average, then he's going to be horrible. I mean, it's pretty simple. Next up for the St. Louis Cardinals at 22, they selected Cooper Jerpy. I'm going to give this a B+. I think that this is about the range that we were expecting him to go. He's a lefty out of Oregon State who had a really big breakout year this year. My player comp for him is Chris Sale. I think that he's going to be Chris Sale 2.0 and ace in the Cardinals rotation in the future. Next up is Brandon Barreria, selected 23rd overall by the Toronto Blue Jays. I like this pick as well. I think that it's a very solid pick. I mean, I think that this is a guy that's, going to be pretty solid in the major leagues. Brandon Barreria is, I mean, throwing 99 in high school already and really good. Mikey Romero gets an F. I've kind of done this into the I don't know, but this is not a good pick, obviously, and I've explained that in my last two videos. So make sure you go watch those. But next up is Spencer Jones. I'm going to give this a C. I think, once again, this is a guy that the potential is really big and a potential. But Spencer Jones is a guy, he's Aaron Judge-like. I mean, he's got the build of Aaron Judge. It's just a matter, is he going to be similar to Aaron Judge? And right now, nobody's similar to Aaron Judge. He's that crazy. But I'm going to give this a C. It's a very Yankees pick, and I predicted it right. Next up at number 28, the White Sox selected Noah Schultz. I'm going to give this a B-. I think that Noah Schultz is a guy that could be the best player in this draft if he develops all into his potential. And he's getting Randy Johnson comps. And at the age of 18, it's a lot of pressure. And he still pitched really good for Oswego East High School in Illinois. I think that this is a very White Sox pick, but a very good pick. Next up, Eric Brown Jr., D-. I just don't like Eric Brown Jr. that much at all. Just not a good pick at all. Coming out of Coastal Carolina, small school, not that great of a hitter in my opinion. I think that any player is – I think that a lot of players could have done what he did in college in the later rounds for sure. And I think if you're going to do a player like this, you should have drafted like Ivan Melendez. Next up, Drew Gilbert, the 28th overall pick by the Houston Astros. And even with the limited money that the Houston Astros have, they still got a good pick in Drew Gilbert. He's a guy that could develop into being a Cody Bellinger type player, in my opinion. I think that Cody Bellinger is probably my player comparison for him. Drew Gilbert, pretty good player. Next up, Xavier Isaac, F. I mean, not a good pick. I've talked about him plenty. And final guy's Reggie Crawford, the San Francisco Giants first-round pick. And, if I'm reaching on a guy, Reggie Crawford was the guy that I would take a chance on because this guy can throw 99 to 100 and also is going to be a pretty good hitter for me. I mean, you got to take that potential into and try to make it a really good player. And maybe he can be a really good player for them. But I don't know. It's probably thinking that he's going to be a guy that's probably not going to make his pro debut till late 2023, maybe even 2024, which already to Giants fans that are watching this probably sounds like, oh my God, we already screwed this pick up. But really there's a lot of potential with him, and maybe he can do something. And that's going to be the end of the grade, and I'm going to give it a C for Reggie Crawford. That's going to be the end of this video. Make sure you drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications. Thank you for watching, and peace.